Hello everybody, I'm Jack, and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. Coming to you from a gray, dreary day here in South Alabama, but it's going to clear out here in a little bit and get cool again. So I know the cool spells are winding down. I'm just really anticipating them and enjoying a little bit of cool weather before I head back to the blazing heat of the tropics. But I love it. I'll tell you what, if you guys hear me complaining about heat once I get down there whatsoever, I want you to virtually reach out through the camera and just bitch slap me good, because after being away from Costa Rica for so long, I shouldn't have anything to complain about. Anyhow, I want to talk about my simple raw food diet logic today. Just kind of like more always explaining how I do things and how I react to things. I do videos every day, so if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that subscribe button now, then click on the little bell and check send notifications so you'll stay subscribed to the channel. Man, I get just questions, you know, all over the place about different things and coming from different places. A lot of times I get them from Instagram, where, you know, Instagram is just pictures. And I found out last year at Woodstock that I had a good number of people that follow me regularly, follow me faithfully on Instagram, that didn't even know I had a YouTube channel. So they would ask me questions, you know, to fill in the gap sometime. And I'm always just thinking, like, you know, I always feel like I'm not giving a thorough answer, but I'm giving an answer from my version of doing things, from the way that my brain works. And that's just been from the very beginning, to keep this thing simple and stop overcomplicating it and stop looking for problems. People always are looking for problems. Well, it doesn't work because this, and the other. I mean, it's like 9 o'clock here in my world, and I like to get on the computer and just screw around for an hour or so and just read all the ridiculous raw food logic out there, and just basically, like I'm starting to say more and more lately, and I think it irks a few people because it kind of tweaks them and gets a little too close to home, is everybody's basically just making this up. They're making it up according to what they want. They're making it up according to their story. If they try something for 2 weeks and it doesn't work, you know, they make up some crazy logic. It's not because they possibly didn't do it correctly or they weren't balanced with it, but it's all about this. So I just try to keep things pretty simple. And when I get questions, sometimes I give very simplistic answers, and I almost feel like I'm just brushing people off, or I feel like other people feel like I'm brushing them off, when it's like, look, I'm not the guy. If you want to ask the long, detailed whys and wherefores and getting into the deep, why do you do this and that, I'm not your guy. There's a lot of people out there that like to talk and babble on and on and on about healing and, you know, all those things, and mucoid plaque and this reason, the bigger words. I just keep it simple. I eat fruits and vegetables. But when I get stuff, it's like I don't even know how to respond sometimes. I really feel like Spock in Star Trek. Spock was before most of y'all younger folks' time. They had already moved on to another cast. But people will ask me a question, and I'm just like, well, what do they mean? That's just not... It's just the answer is simple logic. Well, Jack, God, how do you do that? How do you not eat this? How do you not eat that? Oh, my cheese. Oh, I'm so addicted to this and that. Or I can't get rid of this. I can't get rid of that. It's simple for me, in the most simple form. Take out your notes, write this down. It's not my food. It's not my food. And that was reinforced from the very beginning, from day one. From day one, go back to June of 2012, when it's a weekend. I can't tell you the exact dates. I think it's around the 3rd week of June 2012. And somehow I'm on social media, and I had been researching about my health and different things, natural ways to, you know, regenerate my body. One thing leads to another, and I go down that rabbit hole, and I watch a video about raw veganism, and something from that I click onto something else, and I watch another one, and then I see this on Facebook, and I start reading that. From that weekend forth, click, it turned. From that weekend forward, I was vegan. There was no question about it. There was no, oh my God, well, I want this. Well, it wasn't my food anymore. It wasn't my food anymore, so it wasn't an issue. So I don't, listen, when I say that, I'm not being judgmental how everybody else's process is or how they do things, but for me, I just can't answer, because it was instantaneous like that with the vegan part of it. because it just made sense, you know, once I knew. And this was reinforced from both the health aspect and the ethical aspect. I stumbled onto this thing, of course, because I was researching health and I was researching healthier ways of living. And what initially drew me and said, okay, this stuff makes sense, was the very foundations of, okay, I hadn't bought the book that weekend, obviously, that was the first weekend, but I started reading excerpts of the China study, and eventually that was the first book I was to read, along with some other simple stuff, like I was reading a lot of stuff by Caldwell Esselstyn back then from his Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And when I saw these things about cancer and heart disease and diabetes and all the major diseases that basically come from the same source, you talking about the biggest mother light bulb moment you can imagine. So when I got that knowledge, sorry, there was just no, it's not my food anymore. So if you're trying to tell me you're addicted to cheese, sorry, go see what sympathy you get from a cocaine or heroin addict. You just don't do it. You just don't do it. It's not good for you. It's bad for you. And I would visualize what this food would do going through my body. Anytime I walk downtown, you know, people are lying to you right now. They've been vegan for about 6 weeks and they tell you, oh yes, oh my, they'll see some food and they're like, oh, that's gross to me now. Bullshit, that's not gross to them. We just have a mind where we make choices. And if you have a bit of common sense, we just learn. We can't choose everything that appeals to us. Right after I went vegan, I used to live on pizza. There was places where I could go get a slice of pizza downtown. I still wanted that pizza. I walked by that pizza. I smelled that pizza every day. That pizza still smelled good to me. There was zero temptation because I knew. And once I knew, I could not unknow anymore. Now, I've mentioned a number of times, too, that the ethical connection came, I won't say simultaneously, but very close. And to be honest with you, I never watched more than about 15 minutes of Earthlings. I rationalized it like this: I don't need to watch this show because I've already decided I'm vegan. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. I don't want to see that. But that reinforced it, the ethical part of it. Once if something started jumbling in my brain, well, what about the cheese? What about this or that? So I would think to myself, well, what about the suffering over there? Oh, my addiction to cheese, that outweighs, like an animal having to suffer over there. So I had that backup on both of them. So like I say, from day one, I just established in my head, I rewired my head, what is my food and what is not my food. It's simple as that. Now somebody out there, I don't know, I think a lot of times I think about this stuff, how my process, I can't really translate it, and I don't think people can relate to it when you just say you flipped a switch. They want a process, they want a program, they want steps to get there. And there were a lot of steps to get to kind of figuring out the raw part of it, but the vegan part of it, that was just a no-brainer. But you could apply that same logic on the raw, depending on how important being fully raw is to you. Yeah, you see stuff out there, and like I say all the time, and people will actually get defensive when I say that about the addiction of the cheese and, oh, having this or that. It's still, I'm like, okay, well, if you're gonna go down that road and you're gonna double down on that it's really an addiction, okay, what would you do as a logical person if you had a cocaine addiction, if you had an opioid addiction, if you had a serious drug addiction, and you said, okay, and you couldn't get over it, okay, we're not going to argue with you that that's an addiction. But after a while, okay, if you really feel that's an addiction, go get some treatment somewhere. Go get some next level treatment that would deal with addiction and not just changing habits in your life. But is when it comes down to, well, oh my God, how do you not do this? Well, I don't eat certain things, and I've been able to exclude them from my life for the same reason that I don't do cocaine, that I don't do heroin or opioids or pills. Cocaine was never my thing, but I like pills. I used to love pills. I used to love to have a few drinks at the bar in the afternoon and eat a good Percocet or a Valium or a Xanax or something like that. They would still be pleasurable. Man, if I could eat a 10 milligram Valium right now, I'm sure I'd have a really pleasurable day, but it's not good for me. It's poison, so I don't put it in my body. It's very much as simple as that. And to try to make it any more complicated than that just makes this whole process complicated. Just try to work with your mind a little bit. Establish this is not my food. This is not something that's meant to be put in my body. Just because, listen, we've been programmed for thousands of years. And the programming is strong. I still feel it sometimes, and I even notice it more so. Like just people, but we've done this. People were resistant to ideas that you put out there just simply because they've done another way. They've never looked into some of the things they do to say, yeah, this just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just repetition. You've done it. You've done it. Your parents did it. Your grandparents did it. Society does it. And you've come to think of these things as normal. But a lot of the food, if you just really take a step back, educate yourself a little bit, just go, it's easy, because this is not food. This is not food. It's like if I have a cup here and it looks appealing. Let's say I have a glass right here that's got something, you know, very colorful that looks like juice. It looks appealing. You probably want it, especially if it's on a hot day. But if I've told you, hey, you know what? I saw somebody, there dropped 2 drops of poison in there. There's enough poison in there that'll just drop you like that. Well, it still looks appealing, and it would probably still taste good. We'll say it's odorless, tasteless poison, but it's going to kill you. So simple as that. You don't do it. Not your food. Don't put it in your body. Don't make it any more complicated than that. Otherwise, you're just going to chase your tail and constantly be making up excuses for why you do what you do. Oh, and I'll get back on next Monday. Not my food. I don't eat it. Anyhow, hope this little one helps you today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.